Welcome in. This is your odds checker betting preview for this week's Houston Open. I'm Rick Gehman. That right there is Geoff Fienberg. And Jeff, we are going to get to the Houston Open. But my friend, we've got to look back for just 1 second to Mayakoba because Victor did it. And not only did he do it, he did it in a big way, my friends.
Yeah, Vic by a field goal. Vic won by more points than the Chargers did yesterday for me, Rick. I know we are two loyalists to Victor. I believe you had him outright. I played him with my fun Victor Exotic that finally hit, so people can stop laughing at me about it. But yeah, still no mainland USA victories. It feels very much like Justin Thomas's, pre-huge victories in some way, I guess.
If he follows the Justin Thomas trajectory, that would be great. No problem with that whatsoever. I love it. Houston this week. Back to Shot Tracker, back to Shot Link, back to seeing what the shots are in real time. And we've got ourselves a little bit of a betting board here. So Sam Burns is the favorite, but this number pretty drastic across the industry. DraftKings is showing him at 12-1. You head over to FanDuel, you can get him at 18, which is the same number as Scotty Scheffler. So the grid is going to be incredibly important this week. And the rest of the 20s, Jeff, Sung Jae Im, Cam Smith, Tony Finau. Those are your favorites to win this event.
Yeah, and I will say off the top, I absolutely love this field. This is an exciting betting board to get to build a card out of. A lot of options in that sort of 25 to 40 to 1 range in my opinion. So I'm really excited to talk through this with you and build out a card. As for these names, it's almost like some new faces, right? Up here near the top. Sam Burns, stronger field. He's a favorite now. We're all waiting for Scotty Scheffler to have his big moment. Cam Smith, he's sort of stapled himself here, and Sung Jae quietly, we're back on Bermuda grass, right, Rick? And he's sort of the king of that. And Tony Finau, you can make the case he's more naturally gifted, talented than maybe any player in this field not named Brooks Koepka. So totally fair number. I can make the case on Tony as well.
The way that this board shapes out is incredibly intriguing. I'm absolutely a Sam Burns truther. I think he's going to be in for a huge year. If you're going to bet it, you got to shop it. 12-1 in a field like this is a little bit disappointing, but there are 16s out there. There are 18s out there. Outside of Burns, I could make an argument for Sung Jae, but personally, I might just skip this, Jeff. I might just start in the 30s where I think there's a plethora of names that might be able to get the job done.
Yeah, I had mentioned that this is sort of the card that I love to build, and usually those ones do start in the high 20s, 30s, 40s. A nice 3, 4, 5-man card in that 30 to 60 to 1 range is what I'm staring at. So let's get right into it.
All right. Well, Brooks Koepka is 30-1, along with Joaquin Niemann and Matthew Wolff. We're here. We're at a point where those three share the same odds. And then if you are interested in a Tyrrell Hatton or an Aaron Wise or even a Taylor Gooch who has played well recently, they're all living in that 33. And then, of course, our defending champion, Carlos Ortiz, checks in at 35-1. It's a lot of names here, Jeff. That's just 5 points, and there's a lot of guys that we've got to sift through.
Yeah, just like you said, and I even joked last week that the numbers the books put out on Aaron Wise and Taylor Gooch were almost begging us not to bet them. And you almost wonder, if we're in that situation again. That being said, as tempted as I am to step in front of both of those guys, I'm pivoting to more proven names. I'm a sucker for a guy like Tyrrell Hatton sitting at over 30-1 here, Rick. A guy like Adam Scott, I think he could suit this. I don't want to say it's very long, but it's a medium to long tee to green course that we don't know a ton about. He's a guy whose game I think could fit perfectly on a layout like this. And I've been riding that Niemann train a lot. So in that 30-1 range, a lot of options for me. I will say, I know I will once again take a pass on Brooks Koepka. A lot was made. So many people got so excited last week because he said he was practicing. To me, that's a bad sign. If Brooks Koepka has to admit to you he's practicing, that means he's not in a great place, because we know how Brooks likes to handle himself. Brooks felt good about himself. He wouldn't be letting us know how many balls or buckets, I should say, he's working through right now. I still see it as Brooks as a total sees the swing season legitimate preseason. So people can go back to Brooks at the 30s. I'll feel silly when he wins, but I'm pivoting away from him again to those other names.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there. I'm warming pretty quickly on Adam Scott. I love the game of Taylor Gooch, but we have now seen, the last 2 Sundays where he's been in the final group, it has gone south in a hurry. You wonder if he's going to continue to knock at the door, if that's not better in some type of top 5 or top 10 situation. But
we saw that happen with Burns though too, right? Before like a winning switch, and it was more of a longer extended thing. But sometimes tasting smoke just prepares them. But I just can't do Gooch when I can bet these other guys. I just have more Sunday confidence in. And I love playing Gooch on props when he was a huge dog in these events. But now he's in a range where it's you or Adam Scott. It's you or Patrick Reed. Like, I'll just lose if I'm wrong.
No, I feel you there. Aaron Wise at 33-1 has my full attention as well. And then we slip on down to these 40s, Geoff. And here's another guy with winning pedigree and a long number. Patrick Reed, 40-1. Mark Leishman is 45, along with Maverick McNeely. And then you get into some of the more interesting names. There's 2 here that I'm interested in, between Russell Henley, Cameron Tringale, Jason Kokrak, and Christian Bezadenhout, kind of rounding out our 50s and a little bit shorter than that.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Reed, I think I might need to make my own subcategory for him, like this fall swing Patrick Reed, where I do feel like there is great value on those numbers. This could flirt with the number you'd have to bet him at to win, the Masters pretty much, right, Rick? So right. I'm tempted to just like almost, this is my betting card, but I want to be pot committed to Patrick Reed through like till at least we get to 2022 while he keeps playing, even at the Hero, I want to say, which is coming up, where I'm seeing odds for. I'm almost committed to Patrick Reed through the Hero, is what I'm trying to say there. Tringale, he almost roached our Hideki bets a couple weeks ago, but he keeps showing up, and now we're on a surface that I think works for him and works for his tee to green game. So you're absolutely right there. And I am a guy, like I think a few people this week, Rick, 50-1, Jason Kokrak.
There it is.
He's sometimes a forgotten entity on the PGA Tour. He's almost like the poor version of Harris English in some regard. Like he's even disrespected more than Harris, but you could argue the resumes are kind of similar. That tee to green prowess that we want at a course like this on a layout we don't know as much about. So Kokrak 50-1, it seems like something that could be popular, but I'm all here for it.
Yes. So there's 2 that really caught my attention. Henley at 47-1. I'm warm on. He's been great on these longer par 70 courses, which you wouldn't really expect, but you just kind of lean into the ball striking a little bit. He can get it done. But Kokrak, that on paper, Memorial Park should be a perfect spot for him. When he's running well, it's long off the tee. It's great with the putter. That's the type of stuff that should work here. Obviously, it has not been as good recently. That's why the number is dropping down to where it is right now at 50-1. But that is a bet I have already made this week for sure. The 60s, as we enter these 60, 70, 80-1 range, a couple of notable names. Max Homa back in the field this week. HV3 teeing it up. There's some discrepancies across the industry there. You can get him anywhere between 50 and 70-1. FanDuel hanging some really good numbers at the moment. Gary Woodland broke a lot of hearts last week. He's 90-1. Are any players in this range, Geoff, moving the needle for you?
Potentially, Max Homa, you could argue based on his win equity, like sort of either top 5s and competes or plays horribly. And that's fine from an outright win perspective. I don't think I'm going to be there. I'm just attracted to a couple too many guys in the 30s. I would be willing to give Woodland a pass potentially. I always do like, sometimes backing him on those Bermuda tracks, mainly in Florida, but we are here in Texas. Ian Poulter, I don't know how much outright win equity you believe he does have, but Texas has been kind to him over the years. We've mentioned a few guys with Texas wins already, be it Henley, you mentioned Kokrak already this year. again, Poulter for the win just seems weird to say, but at 90-1, I wouldn't hate it, but I don't also think I'm going to bet it. So now I feel like you can get mad at me for just saying a name I'm not betting.
I'm not mad at you. Don't worry about it. Let's go down to triple digits here. And this is where, I see some guys that I think can play well, but I don't think can necessarily contend and win this golf tournament. The one that stands out to me is Adam Long. He's 130-1. He played well here last year. He's been boom or bust, which if I'm down in triple digits, I don't mind. Emiliano Grillo feels like the one, Jeff. And again, some places he's 80. He's 110 at DraftKings. Misses one cut, everybody forgets about him. I don't think he should be priced in the same way as a Taylor Moore or a CT Pan.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, I took a bath on him last week. I think I had him an 80-1 on the outright. So a field where you could argue the top isn't as heavy. Like Justin Thomas, Victor Hovland would still be the two best players in this field. And you could probably project the winning score is more in line with something you could hope Grillo could achieve compared to last week, which is probably silly. And quickly in hindsight, I realized he's not going to make that many birdies, but we've mentioned it a few times, medium to long course, that tee to green prowess could work for him. I'll go even lower than Grillo though. For tee to green prowess, just pray for a putter. That's Luke List, 150-1. The Bermuda grass sometimes brings out the best in Luke and some of his best PGA Tour results. 150-1 on a course where, you know, he's like a super poor man's Kokrak without a trophy case. But these are the types of courses where I can get into Luke List. Fingers crossed. It's obviously a huge payday. My expectations would be in check, but you're making me find 100 and above. Luke List's always got my eye, and that's been a loser, I guess, historically.
150-1 at both DraftKings and FanDuel. While we're throwing darts, I will remind everyone that 180-1, Denny McCarthy is the greatest Bermuda putter to ever walk the face of the earth, and he's starting to show signs of life here recently. Maybe he can ride a scorching hot putter for 4 days. Jeff, Houston this week, and as you mentioned, this winning score last year, the 1 year of sample size that we have, 13 under. The rough generally more penal here. We know it's longer. If you're in the rough, it's difficult to hit the green. So there's going to be a lot of opportunities where par is a good score. Being 3 or 4 under on a day, that'll do just fine.
Yeah, it makes me kind of like my potential Patrick Reed bet even more, because he's sort of the last 2 events have sort of been to resort course birdie festivals. Although that course last week in Mexico, it's not as easy as I perceive it to be at times. But this one can definitely be a challenge in Houston. And I find, just as a sports fan, the relationship between this event and Major League Baseball's Houston Astros, I think that's one of the cooler things that we see on the PGA Tour. So I'm always into that corny little side note.
It is cool. The logo is top notch. They've really jumped into the Astros, kind of that old school color scheme. Yeah, there's a lot of good vibes about this place.
I'm into it. Good field, good betting board. I'm excited to build this card.
You can follow Jeff on Twitter at GFienberg17. You can follow me at Rick Run Good. Best of luck at the Houston Open, and we'll see you next week.